Hey, Ryan, what is coffee and clothes? And there's a lot more to it than just that. Tell us.
Yeah, so Coffee and Clothes, is a full media and production company. So what started off as an Instagram account has really transformed to, digital and productions, but also experiential and building pop-ups, doing in-store retail activations.
So you're a marketing firm that builds pop-ups?
That's one side of it, yeah.
At conventions, and even you ran a pop-up at Fashion Week, right?
Yeah, so the pop-ups could, whether they're at trade shows, whether they're in a brand's brick and mortar, or we're building our own. So for Fashion Week, Marc Jacobs has a pop-up in Midtown, and we kind of came in there and created like a whole designer latte concept, create that shareable moment for people in attendance.
And was it at a Fashion Week event or someplace else in Midtown? Tell us exactly how this worked.
Yeah, so it was at the Marc Jacobs pop-up shop on Madison and 60th Street. They're having a pop-up till summer. So we kind of came in there and gave away like charcoal lattes. Everything was complimentary. So
now, do you put a sign sometimes that says pop-up store, or you don't do that anymore? How's that work?
Well, it depends on what the brand, if they let us or whatever it is. But I think, we don't really want to, it's not always like a pop-up. Sometimes it could be for a month long. It could be for as little as one day. So I think it really just depends on, what the brand wants to do.
So you were in marketing and you saw a physical opportunity in running pop-up stores for your clients.
Yeah, so what started, online, it's like I've always had this vision to like expand it into retail in real world and something tangible. So, obviously there is a lot of like merging between the online and offline worlds. But yeah, I've always saw this opportunity in getting into retail.
But are pop-up stores becoming permanent? Is it becoming a misnomer?
Yeah, I think you see, just walking all over New York, there's so many vacant spaces. So I think it's kind of a workaround if brands want to experiment or they don't want to invest in a 10-year lease. I think it's a way to, A, get your name out there, B, try different things, and also sell product and see how consumers react to it.
What makes a pop-up store work?
I think there's a lot of kind of, from a starting point, what are like the brand's goals? So are you trying to generate as much revenue as possible? Are you trying to create awareness? So I think starting with the goals, and I think building and kind of attracting those and getting the right people there as well.
All right, generate sales. What would you do then if you want to?
So I always say, first of all, product is king.
Right.
So at the end of the day, like if what you're selling, if people don't like it, it doesn't even matter what the other bells and whistles you have going on. So what's the product? And then how do you, convey it in the right way? Create other experiences around the product, so it's not just a simple transaction. It's not so transactional anymore. Retail's kind of changing.
Will they just become a kiosk within a store?
No, I think it really just depends how you want to do it. It could be a kiosk in a store. A brand could, run a pop-up every week in a different city if they want. It's all about creating these new moments and buzz around, because you have to change things up. Retail isn't ran, like it was 30, 20, even 10 years ago.
I remember in the malls, there used to be carts in the middle of the mall.
Well, they still do that.
Yeah.
In LA, there's a mall called The Grove, and I know, they offer brands these little pods like on a monthly, even weekly basis. So you can come in, custom design it, like not like you did in the day, but full on like pop-up customized to the brand's like identity and aesthetic, and you're selling a pop-up. So instead of, committing to 10 years, you can do it for a week or even a month.
How do I know a pop-up store when I see one?
Yeah, I think, it really, depends how much you follow the brand. I think, A, on their social channels, on their marketing material, on their website. I think if they want to promote it that way, or sometimes you don't. So it really just depends.
Right, but if you follow the brand, it's almost a pop-up store that almost becomes like an in-store event that I, as a fan, would want to come to.
Exactly, and if you follow these brands, it's like, it's omni-channel. So you see it on Instagram, you see it on Facebook, you see it sometimes on text message bots. So I think they kind of attract you in different ways and kind of educate you in that sense.
What is it that you observe and see when you're in a pop-up store and there are real brand fans? What is it that makes them such fans to come to that pop-up store?
Yeah, well, I think like the product, like
Yeah.
if there's something that's releasing and it's only available for this day or for this pop-up, whatever it may be. But on the other side, it's like everyone wants content currency, or that's what I like to call it. What's like the shareable moment, that people want to? It's their own brand. So what are they sharing or taking away from the place that they can share on their own social media channels or on their own platform? So what is like the content opportunity that brand's providing you as an individual?
Do you often put a selfie wall in the pop-up store so people can do that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's like we're all about, from like a coffee and clothes standpoint, how do we create a shareable moment and a personalized experience within the coffee? So whether it's like custom latte art, branded cups, whether we're starting to get into augmented reality throughout the coffee. So how do we, create the shareable moment with the beverage you're drinking?
Why did you name the marketing business and now the pop-up business Coffee and Clothes?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Los Angeles, and when I moved to New York about 5 years ago, I would just walk around and kind of get lost in the city and kind of venture from coffee shop to coffee shop. So along the way, I would just take photos of my coffee and the outfit I was wearing, and I decided to just, let me start this Instagram account called Coffee and Clothes. And, it's available, I started it, and then kind of from there it took off.
How many followers do you have on Instagram now?
Right now we have about like 300,000, and yeah, it started off with like a lot of momentum. We would get an article in the press, and it would just like spur like really high. And I think now it's like the times are changing, so it's different. And I think, for us, right now, like a lot of my focus is more on like building out these pop-ups and growing the brand into like retail and product. And I feel like social, we got to figure that out again.
How many employees do you have?
So right now it's like 3 of us, but we work with a lot of freelancers and build on per project.
How many, what size pool freelancers would you have?
Yeah, I would say like 30 to 40.
Who you can call on?
Yeah, and it depends whether it's like production or digital or like influencer side. It really just varies.
Are you able to find that supply of freelancers with skills that you want?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the toughest parts is having that network that you can kind of tap into, getting referrals. I think at this point, I've been doing this for the last like 7-8 years, so really have like my network and my go-tos. But yeah, I'm always looking for new people, new talented individuals to help me out.
What % of the freelancers ask you for a full-time job?
I would say it's a good question. Probably like half. Some don't want to do full-time at all, and like they're happy to do project-based, and I think some only want it to be full-time. So
what do you tell them when they say they want full-time?
I always like to let's start off with like a project or a case-by-case basis, and then if that goes well and if we we vibe and we work well together, I think those are always opportunities for that to turn into something bigger.
What do you look for in somebody who fills that bill, who you want to bring on? How do you know this is going to be someone who's really going to help me?
And I think I'm still figuring that out, but I think number one, it's just like from pure feel and instinct. But I think I like people that can wear multiple hats, that are very organized and work quickly. I work really fast, and I'm doing a lot of things at once. So someone else that can kind of, I guess, slow it down, but also stay at my pace and be able to do, get the job done.
That's a new one. Slow it down, but work fast.
Yeah.
That's the slogan.
It's like John Wooden said, be quick, but don't hurry.
Right, there you go. What advice do you have to a business owner who has 300 or 600 followers on Instagram, and they want to hit 1,000, 2,000, 3,000? What suggestions would you have?
Yeah, well, I think, first off, I don't really think it's all about the followers, especially now. I don't think that really matters. A company could be making $1 million plus revenue and have, 10,000 followers on Instagram. Or the opposite, you can have 1 million followers and making, 100,000 revenue. So I don't think it's all about followers. It's like, how do you build a brand and have something loyal? And I think that starts a product, and then how do you kind of build a loyal audience to that?
But there's also a niche. I mean, coffee and clothes. I've never heard of a store that sells coffee and clothes, right? So that draws you attention. People say, "What is this?" Yeah,
I think right off the bat, like when I thought of coffee and clothes for Instagram, I was like, okay, this is a really catchy name. I love it. Like this is definitely gonna, attract some attention just because of the name. So I think, just by looking at the name, every time people hear it, it's like, oh, my 2 favorite things. So I think that's just right off the bat, that breaks down the barrier of like, okay, this is a brand that I could relate with. So then as we get into our own retail and our own, product assortment, I feel like hopefully that continues the momentum.
And it's interesting that a lot of the stores that have been around for many years are now trying to become more like coffee shops, and the clothing stores and even banks want you to come in and have coffee.
Exactly. Well, you see a lot of fashion brands today, like they're opening cafes in their store, or even Capital One. I think they have they opened up an assortment of cafes. So really, it's about how do you attract customers' attention? How do you get them to stay longer, shop around, but also creating an enjoyable experience?
And you'll start your own line of pop-up stores for coffee and clothes as well as doing them for other people.
Yeah, it's like we want to do both, like build pop-ups for brands, do in-store activations, but have our own, set of coffee and clothes stores.
Activations is the buzzword now. What does it? It means start, right?
Well, activations could be, like for us, like an activation is a one-day event.
Okay.
Versus like if we're doing a pop-up shop for 2 weeks or a month. I guess that's the difference. Or, we could have a pop-up shop and we're doing an activation within the pop-up shop.